to I Will Be Okay Thursdays. Growing up, I was taught that dreams were meaningless. I was taught that dreams were just something weird that happens at night and there's kind of no explanation why. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is the complete opposite of the truth. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing my Michael Jackson Thriller shirt because at the end of this video, I want you to understand your nightmares more. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is first break down what dreams actually are from the psychoanalytic view of them. Then I'm going to break down one of my nightmares, and then I'm going to leave you guys with a couple tips on how to interpret your own dreams. So last year during my studies, dreams was one of the most integral topics that we were taught about, which I kind of didn't expect that dreams would be such a big deal in my studies, but now I realize actually they're really cool and they're really important in understanding what's going on in the unconscious. So I want to read this quote which says, "Dreams provide what is missing in the psychic wholeness of the individual, and it helps to reestablish relations between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind and secures overall psychic equilibrium. The dream is a mediator of opposites." So I want to start off with that because I want you to understand that a dream is your unconscious showing you things that you're not fully conscious of. So your unconscious will specifically use symbols and will use those symbols in images. So let's break down. A symbol is, for example, I wore this on purpose, a cross is a symbol. But an image is kind of like the cross in action. So what is the cross just standing there? Is Jesus on it? Is somebody carrying a cross? So that's just one example. So a symbol is just an object, and then an image is the action of the object. And these are really important things to note in a dream. So aside from noticing the symbols in your dreams and the images, the most important key is your associations to the image. The unconscious is incredibly intelligent, and it specifically uses images that you have personal associations towards. Your unconscious is basically telling you a story through symbolism to show you things that you need to be conscious of in order to achieve greater wholeness in yourself. Growing up, I was taught that dreams were random, but they are the complete opposite thing from random. Dreams are expressing what your ego doesn't know or understand about yourself yet. Now, you don't dream something until your unconscious feels that you're ready to bring it into consciousness. So dreams are literally stories of transformation for you to know yourself more deeply. I really want to say again how important it is for you to really take note of the symbols in your dreams, the images in your dreams, and also the people. One of the most amazing things that I learned last year was to note that everybody in the dream is you. So even if there's other people in the dream, it's really not, and it's very rarely actually about the other person, but the dream has chosen this person because of your associations towards this person. Now, in the Jungian community, there's a widespread belief that every single dream is something super, super meaningful from the unconscious. And I don't necessarily agree with that because I think sometimes our subconscious or our unconscious will just be working things out for us while we're sleeping. It's simply the manifestation of mental forces that didn't have the opportunity to fully expand throughout the day. Though I think sometimes we will dream things and it's often showing us things that we aren't currently admitting to ourselves about our current situation. I want to read you this quote. "Dreams not only fail to obey our will, but very often stands in flagrant opposition to our conscious intentions." This is something really important to take note of because I think when we dream, specifically nightmares, nightmares are usually fueled by deep anxiety or deep fears or things that we're really afraid to face. And when we're having nightmares, I think that that's our unconscious pushing something onto us so frightening that we can't help but give it our attention in a way. I think it's our unconscious screaming for us to pay attention to something that we aren't paying attention to. You have to sit with these symbols, sit with the images, and sit with your associations to them to understand why you're having such frightening dreams. These things could be pushing you to say like, hey, there's something you're not aware of, there's something you're not admitting to yourself, there's a fear underlying things that you're doing that you're not facing. So your unconscious is trying to scare you to wake you up to what's happening. Unconsciously, there's some fear, some anxiety that you aren't addressing. These images that are being revealed to you during a dream state are meant for you to understand those inner images so you can bring them out into the outer world, meaning like bringing them into consciousness. One other term that I noticed was used a lot in my studies was one-sidedness. So in order for us to achieve wholeness, we have to be able to accept all these different parts of ourselves. And being one-sided, we neglect parts of ourselves which cause us not to feel whole. And so what a dream is usually compensating for potential one-sidedness in somebody's life. So let's say, for example, you're living a particular life which people have expected of you, you're living a life which you feel like maybe wasn't completely your choice because of obligations, blah blah blah. You might be having dreams which are showing you your truth, your inner desires, your true inner needs that you haven't totally addressed in your life. Dreams will compensate for this one-sidedness. Now, if you didn't grow up with the belief that dreams were random and weird, maybe you grew up with the belief that dreams were actually telling you something about the future, which is like 99.9% not true. So I think sometimes people will have dreams which will kind of act as premonitions, and I've had some dreams where that was the case. But for the most part, I would say, like for myself, like maybe 95% of the time my dreams are telling me something else which doesn't actually have to do with the future. Now there's this amazing quote which says that contrary to popular belief, dreams are not foretelling the future, but they're showing us the future which may occur by our own volition or the future that we want to occur. Now, I think what that means is that if we don't bring what's being unearthed in the dream to consciousness, we may not be aware of the future that will happen because of the things that we're doing. Slash, if a dream is showing us our inner desires, if it's showing us what we really want, then it could be showing us the future that we actually want to happen. So it has less to do with something outside of you and more to do with what's going on inside of you, which will inevitably create your future. I want you to take into account that dreams are highly creative, and a lot of times you can dream of something where it could be mocking something, it could be kind of like a play on words as well. Let's say somebody has a dream about their husband, and their husband or their wife is constantly nagging at them, right? And so they have a dream where a hen is constantly pecking at them. And maybe that, have you ever heard the expression henpecked? When somebody's henpecked, it means somebody's constantly nagging at them. It could be the unconscious saying like, you are henpecking your husband, or you're nagging at your husband so much you're acting like a hen and you're henpecking him. A reoccurring dream is an email that you haven't responded to. Now, I think reoccurring dreams can happen because either one, we still haven't interpreted it in order to bring something into consciousness, and reoccurring dreams can also be very frequently attributed to trauma. Now, I want to break down the word trauma a bit for you. So in German, the word Traum means dream, and then we also have in English trauma, which is trauma. In Hebrew, we have the word halom, which means dream, and we also have the word haklama, which means healing. So it's really cool how these words kind of have a connection to dreams, healing, and trauma. Now, there are 4 moments of trauma. There's the experience itself, there's the experience of the event itself, then there's the meaning attributed to the initial response, and there's the expression of that experience of those events. So when we have a reoccurring dream, and if it is attributed to trauma, it could be our unconscious showing us how this trauma is still infiltrating through our lives, how it's still affecting us, even if we don't think it is consciously, it is unconsciously, and our unconscious may be trying to show us that. Because what hasn't been worked through, I believe, not even just on a dream level, but even in our lives, will continue to reappear in different forms. And that's the thing about dreams as well, is that if you don't get the interpretation right for one dream giver, or the dream dolphin, however you want to describe it as, will give you another dream. Now, I want to discuss one of my nightmares, and it's really interesting because the setting of this dream keeps reoccurring, but the dream itself is different. So the first time I ever had this dream was in 2017, and I had just gotten out of a really abusive relationship, and the dream basically was there was an old house, and it had many floors, and the basement, I know in the dream for some reason that I know the basement is very, very, very haunted. Like in the dream, I get this feeling that the basement is like the mouth to hell, and if I go down there, it's like all these evil ghosts and spirits and whatever are just gonna swallow me whole. So I know to stay in the upper parts of the house. So in this dream, in the first dream I remember being in the house and just feeling so deathly afraid of not going into the basement, and having this feeling of just stay upstairs. And then at some point in the dream, I always leave the house and realize that I don't have to stay there. So I've had this dream now, well, not the same dream, but the same setting, a few times now. And the most recent time I had it, it was again this really old house, so afraid of the basement, but staying in the upper parts. And now that I am knowledgeable about dreams, I can tell you that whenever you dream of something that has to do with levels, it has to do with levels of consciousness. If you dream about something in the basement, it has to do with the unconscious, and if you dream about something of upper levels, it usually has to do with the conscious mind. But when you're in a house or a room, that usually has something to do with a relationship. Like old houses, for me, I have this association towards old houses as something that's so deeply entrenched in history, and things have happened there, and people have related there, and people have ate there, and people have been together in this place. And so what I think that this dream was showing me were these things I think I was afraid to face about my past in a lot of my relationships, and these things that I'm, maybe still on some level really afraid to bring to consciousness because there's just so much pain there. And so kind of staying in this upper level and not going down there and facing what's actually down there, I can feel okay, even though I'm always gonna end up back in this place, maybe until I face what's down there. What I may associate to what I dream may be totally different from what you associate with your dream, But there are common symbols that can have common meanings, and so I want to recommend to you to download this app if you're interested, called DreamMoods. And this app specifically asks for you to type in symbols from your dreams, and it'll break down, you know, culturally, it'll break down psychoanalytically what symbols have commonly meant in dreams for other people. But I guess the kind of like tricky part with that is that sometimes researching those symbols on DreamMoods has been very helpful for me, but it's not 100%, because as I'm going to continue to drill in this video is that your associations to symbols are so important in interpreting your dream. Another really good tip I want to give you is I've heard people say, like, you should have a journal. Right when you wake up, you should write it. And I'm just like, God, as soon as I wake up, I don't want to write. So what I do is I actually just take my phone and I record a voice message about what my dream is, and I try to go in as much detail as possible. Because sometimes I will look back on a dream that I recorded and I'm like, oh, actually it makes sense now that I've had time to kind of think about it and I've had time to kind of see how things like went in my life. Joseph Campbell also said that entering one's interior story takes a courage similar to starting a novel. I just want to thank you guys for some of the messages that I've been receiving about continuing to make videos and that I've been helping people, and I'm just really grateful. The messages mean so much to me and they're very encouraging and supporting, and I think that I'm really gonna try and grow my YouTube channel for real, because I think that this is genuinely what I want to do. I would really like to get analytic tools more into people's hands more widely, because I think it can be incredibly healing. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week.